Welcome to AI Unraveled, your daily briefing on how technology is changing the way we live, work, and connect. It is Thursday, April 2 ended 2026. I'm your co-host, Anna. Today's episode is brought to you by Iria and Jamga Mind. When your boss becomes an algorithm or your company asks you to train an AI on your daily workflows, your personal agency is on the line. Jamga Mind provides the human-verified, technical-grade analysis you need to navigate these profound workplace shifts. And to protect your personal data in an increasingly automated world, Area ensures your digital life remains in a secure, zero-trust sandbox. Look, the AI landscape moves faster than a hallucinating LLM on a double espresso, which is why I've done the heavy lifting for you. Stop scrolling through generic top 10 lists and head over to the AI Executive Toolkit at jamgamind.com/toolkit. I've handpicked and forensic vetted every tool on this list, from Chatbase and 11 Labs to Area and Google Workspace, to ensure they meet the rigorous standards of a professional and the high-stakes needs of the AI Unraveled community. Consider this your curated implementation stack to bridge the gap between raw innovation and professional-grade governance, complete with exclusive listener perks to get your firm running at light speed. Today we are talking about the quiet internet and the automated boss. Let's unravel what these changes mean for you.
If you stand on a beach and watch the tide go out, there's this deceptive, almost peaceful quiet. The water is just pulling back, retreating from the shoreline, exposing all the sand.
Right, yeah.
But if you look closely at the horizon, you realize that all that water isn't just disappearing, it's gathering. It's accumulating into a massive, towering wave out in the deep water.
It's a complete redistribution of energy. I mean, the absence of activity in one place, like the empty shoreline, is actually the raw fuel for an enormous accumulation of power somewhere else. The water has to go somewhere, you know?
Exactly. And welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive, where we're going to look at the tech news of April 2, 2026 through that exact lens.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover today.
There really is. Today's mission is to analyze the massive tech shifts happening right now, specifically focusing on what they mean for you, the individual worker, and the digital citizen. We're exploring a phenomenon we're calling the Great Retreat.
The Great Retreat, yeah, I like that.
Because right now, as you look at the landscape of our digital lives, human beings are systematically backing away. I mean, we are retreating from public sharing, we are retreating from traditional corporate leadership, and we are even backing away from the foundational craft of coding itself.
But, just like that ocean tide, our collective retreat is fueling the rise of something totally unprecedented. While the individual is stepping back, the AI megacorporations and the infrastructure behind them are expanding at a scale that is genuinely hard to wrap your head around.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just that tech is getting bigger. It's that it is actively filling the vacuum we are leaving behind.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with where we spend so much of our time, the internet. There's a new report from Ofcom that paints a fascinating picture of what I'm going to call the quiet internet.
Yeah, those numbers were pretty wild.
Right. In just the last 2 years, the percentage of adults in the UK who are actually posting, sharing, or commenting on social media has dropped off a cliff. We went from 61% in 2024 to just 49% today.
Wow.
Yeah. Platforms are heavily pivoting to passive video consumption. But the real story is why people are going silent. The report shows that nearly half of adults are terrified that their historic posts are going to, well, basically ruin their professional prospects.
What's fascinating here is the psychological shift. If you think about the architecture of early social media, it was built on the premise of the public square. It rewarded broadcasting your inner monologue to the world.
Right, the Wild West of the internet.
Exactly. But now, the perceived cost of leaving a digital footprint has simply become too high for the average person. We are actively curating ourselves out of existence. But, human beings still have a fundamental need to process their thoughts.
They still need to ask questions and explore ideas, yeah.
Right. Nature abhors a vacuum. So, as social media engagement plummets, the Ofcom report notes that active use of AI tools like ChatGPT among UK adults has jumped to 54%.
Wait, so fewer people are talking to humans online and more people are talking to chatbots?
Essentially, yes.
That is wild. And the survey also noted that fewer social media users even believe these social apps are good for their mental health anymore. I look at it this way. Social media used to be this messy, bustling town square. Sure, it was loud and sometimes obnoxious, but it was alive. You bumped into people.
Yeah, I had a pulse.
Now, it feels like a museum guarded by lasers, where everyone is walking around with their hands in their pockets, terrified to accidentally touch the exhibits. Are we basically replacing risky, authentic human connections with safe, completely sterile interactions with a server farm?
It's the profound appeal of zero-stakes judgment. Think about the mechanics of how a large language model operates. It doesn't have a memory that it weaponizes against you.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, it doesn't cancel you. It doesn't dig up a sarcastic joke you made 5 years ago and forward it to your employer. You can ask it the most basic, embarrassing questions or share a controversial thought, and there is no social consequence.
So, as digital citizens, we are retreating into the safety of the algorithm.
Exactly. But there is a massive paradox here that we really have to talk about. We are terrified of leaving a messy personal footprint online, yet, at the exact same time, we are being paid to map out our exact professional footprints for AI labs.
Which brings us to one of the most wild leaks we've seen recently. Business Insider just revealed OpenAI's internal program called Project Stagecraft. And honestly, the people working on this are essentially the architects of obsolescence.
Yeah, that name is incredibly fitting.
OpenAI is using a platform called Handshake AI to pay up to 4,000 freelancers at least $50 an hour to build occupation-specific training data. But who these people are is the crazy part.
Yes, we need to be very clear about the demographics here. These are not gig workers doing basic data labeling.
Right? They aren't clicking on pictures of crosswalks or traffic lights to train a self-driving car.
No, these are commercial aviation experts, pharmacists, plant scientists, human resources specialists. The project mandate explicitly states it is focused on, quote, knowledge work, not manual labor.
Imagine the mental gymnastics required for this. You are a specialized professional. You sit down at your laptop, you clock in, and your entire task for the day is to meticulously document your own irrelevance.
It's surreal.
They are creating personas. They are simulating their actual daily workflows. They are providing the context, the goals, the references, and the deliverables of their specific, highly skilled professions.
And they know exactly what they are doing.
Yeah, there's a stark quote from one of the contractors in the leak who said, "We all were aware that we were basically training AI to replace us."
When companies begin mapping out your exact daily workflow to train your replacement, you need more than a headline. You need forensics. Gemgamine provides human-verified, technical-grade analysis for the individual navigating these shifts. Visit djamgamamind.com.
You really do need that forensic level of understanding because I don't think people realize how the training mechanism has shifted. We aren't just teaching AI to speak English anymore.
Right, not at all.
We are teaching it how to do a specific white-collar job from 9 to 5.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this marks a fundamental evolution in how AI is trained. For years, the approach was generalist text scraping. You vacuum up the whole internet, every Wikipedia article, every Reddit thread, and teach a model to predict the next word.
You run out of high-quality internet eventually.
Precisely. Project Stagecraft represents a targeted cataloging of professional actions. A phonicist isn't just typing the word aspirin into a database.
Right, they are mapping out the exact decision tree.
The decision tree, the exact regulatory checks, and the exact patient communications required to dispense medication safely. OpenAI is mapping economically relevant tasks to gauge exactly what their models can take over today.
That is just staggering to think about.
And the fact that OpenAI is concurrently drafting policy papers on economic disruption suggests their timelines are accelerating faster than even they anticipated.
So the ground-level knowledge workers are actively retreating, trading their specialized workflows for $50 an hour. But if you think this is just a problem for the rank-and-file employees, think again, because the algorithms are coming for the corner office next.
The AI landscape is moving too fast for generic top 10 lists. Etienne has done the heavy lifting for the AI Unraveled community. Head over to djamsjammind.com/toolkit for the AI Executive Toolkit. It's a hand-picked, forensic-vetted implementation stack featuring tools like Chatbase, 11 Labs, and ARA, complete with exclusive listener perks to get your firm running at light speed.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the retreat isn't just about the individuals curating their social feeds or contractors selling their workflows. It's happening at an organizational level. Let's talk about Jack Dorsey and what is happening at Block.
Yeah, this is a massive shakeup.
They recently cut over 4,000 employees. That is 40% of their staff.
Oh, yeah.
And Dorsey isn't blaming inflation or the economy. He is explicitly calling this a bet on AI. He's introducing what we might call the algorithmic boss.
Dorsey's thesis is provocative. He argues that middle managers fundamentally exist to do one thing: route information up and down a chain of command.
Just routing data, essentially.
Yeah, they take the strategy from the executives, break it into tasks for the builders, and then report the progress back up. His argument is that an AI can now do that routing more efficiently via a live world model of the business.
Wait, hold on. A live world model of a business. How does an algorithm actually manage a remote worker? What is it actually doing under the hood?
Well, because Block is a remote-first company, practically every action taken by an employee leaves a digital trace. The algorithm is ingesting every Slack message, every Jira ticket, every GitHub commit, every recorded Zoom meeting transcript.
Oh, wow. So it sees everything.
It builds a real-time, multi-dimensional map of what the company is doing. Dorsey argues that because all this raw material already exists as a digital record, the AI has all the context it needs to route information to the right person at the right time.
Okay, so what happens to the humans?
Human roles are reduced to just 3 categories. You have builders who make things, problem owners who are responsible for specific outcomes, and player coaches who develop talent.
Okay, I see how that looks incredible on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But think about this like a GPS navigation system. A GPS can route you perfectly to your destination. It takes in all the data traffic, speed limits, road closures, and finds the most mathematically efficient path.
Right.
But it has absolutely zero empathy. It doesn't know if the driver is exhausted or burnt out or dealing with a crisis at home. A human manager sees that you look tired on a Zoom call and says, hey, take tomorrow off.
Exactly.
What happens to human mentorship, career development, and empathy in a corporate environment entirely run by a world model?
That is the critical vulnerability in Dorsey's thesis. He is betting that lean AI-first teams can outmaneuver bloated legacy firms that are slowed down by layers of human approval. And financially, purely in terms of overhead, he might be right.
Sure, the numbers probably look great short term.
But relying entirely on a digital record assumes that all valuable corporate knowledge is written down. It fundamentally ignores the informal conversations, the institutional memory, the nuanced understanding of team dynamics that human managers navigate every day.
Yeah, you can't put a metric on trusting your boss.
The open question is whether workers will ever truly trust a routing algorithm to replace the nuance of human management.
And if the AI world model is doing all the managing and routing all this pristine information directly to the builders, we have to ask, what exactly are the builders doing? Because as it turns out, they are retreating from the foundational craft of their trade, too.
We are entering the era of what is being called vibe coding.
So what does this all mean? Vibe coding is a term that's emerged to describe a massive shift in how software is actually developed. A recent Code Signal survey of 450 U.S. software engineers found that a staggering 91% report using agentic AI coding tools, things like Claude Code, Codex, and Cursor, in their daily work.
91%. That is almost total adoption.
And over 75% of them have shipped AI-generated code directly into production in just the last 6 months.
And we need to clarify what agentic means here, because this is not the autocomplete of 2023, where you type a line and it suggests the next bracket.
Right, it's way beyond that now.
An agentic tool acts as an autonomous worker. You give it a high-level goal, and it writes the code, sets up the testing environment, debugs the errors it finds, and proposes the final solution. The pressure on developers to conform to this new workflow is immense.
You can imagine.
73% of these surveyed engineers say that not adopting these tools puts them at risk of becoming less competitive. In fact, 42% said they would hesitate to even hire or work with a developer who refuses to use them.
Which feels entirely counterintuitive to the old narrative that AI would kill developer jobs.
Yeah.
Job postings for developers are actually up year over year right now.
They are, yeah.
Because novice-led vibe coding allows for the mass creation of custom software, companies suddenly need more in-house expertise to manage it all.
But I have a real pushback here.
Let's hear it. If 91% of engineers are acting as AI orchestrators rather than writing the syntax by hand, aren't we losing the fundamental understanding of how our own digital infrastructure works? It's like, sure, the AI can install all the pipes in the house perfectly, but if the plumbing breaks down the road, does anyone still know how to use a wrench?
This raises an important question, and it is exactly what platforms like Code Signal are having to adapt to. They are debuting completely new agentic coding assessments because the required skill has fundamentally changed.
But they aren't testing the actual coding anymore.
Not in the traditional sense. They aren't testing if you can build a sorting algorithm from scratch by hand anymore. They are testing whether you can use agentic tools to build a solution, and more critically, if you can explain the technical decisions made by the AI to a human reviewer.
Wow.
The role of the software engineer is shifting from creator to editor. You are no longer writing the manuscript, you are reviewing the AI's draft.
And the tools driving this shift are just flooding the market at warp speed. I mean, we can't even keep track of the barrage of releases this week alone.
It is relentless, and it proves how fast the underlying mechanisms are improving. For instance, Microsoft just released 3 in-house AI models, MAI Transcribe 1, MAI Voice 1, and MAI Image 2.
Okay, another big release.
But what is staggering about this is that Mustafa Suleyman confirmed teams of fewer than 10 engineers built the audio and image models.
Wait, 10 engineers?
10 engineers? How is that possible? Because they are using advanced AI tools to build the new AI models. And their transcribe model runs on half the GPUs of competitors while beating OpenAI's Whisper on all 25 benchmark languages.
That is insane efficiency.
Microsoft is openly signaling they are building towards superintelligence entirely independent of OpenAI.
And it's not just Microsoft. Alibaba released 3 closed-source models in 3 days, culminating in Qwen 3.6 Plus, which targets enterprise clients with coding and multimodal reasoning.
Yeah, the enterprise space is heating up.
Then you have Liquid AI putting out LFM 2.5, which is fascinating because it's a tiny model that outperforms models twice its size specifically on tool use. And maybe the wildest one's the AI rolled out a vision coding model. Let's break down how this actually works. It literally reads screenshots.
This one blew my mind.
Right. You upload a PNG of the design draft, the model looks at the pixels, understands the layout, the buttons, the colors, and just generates runnable, functional code from what it sees. It skips the translation step entirely.
When you synthesize all of this, from the AI middle managers at block ingesting company data to the vision coding models of ZAI generating software from images, you start to see the infrastructure of the Great Retreat. The scale of the systems we're retreating into is immense.
It really is.
And if you want to know where the future is heading, look at where the capital is flowing. Investors on secondary markets are suddenly fleeing OpenAI shares, leaving $600 million without buyers.
Yeah, the flight of capital is telling.
Instead, they're rushing to deploy $2 billion into Anthropic, valuing it at $380 billion, because they see Anthropic's specific architecture as fundamentally better suited for secure enterprise-level growth.
The numbers are just dizzying.
Yeah.
And then you look at what Elon Musk is doing. SpaceX just filed for what would be the largest IPO in human history.
They are targeting a valuation north of $1.75 trillion, looking to raise up to $75 billion. But the mechanism of this IPO is what's crucial.
What do you mean?
Musk absorbed xAI into SpaceX before filing. So he is tying the physical infrastructure of rockets and satellites together with artificial intelligence, robotics, and massive data streams into a single publicly traded mega company.
Wow, a complete ecosystem.
And despite xAI currently pulling in less than $1 billion in revenue compared to the rocket business, it is the AI narrative that is driving this historic U.S. mega listing.
It's an entire parallel infrastructure being built while we step back. Amazon is in talks to acquire Globalstar for $9 billion, just to expand its low Earth orbit satellite internet to compete with Starlink. Though Apple's 20% stake in Globalstar is making those negotiations incredibly complicated.
Oh, the corporate maneuvering there is going to be fascinating to watch.
And at the ground level of the web, Cloudflare is launching M-Dash, an open source CMS they are calling the spiritual successor to WordPress.
And notice how M-Dash is architected. It is designed from the ground up to be AI native. The way it works is that it runs plugins in completely isolated sandboxes called dynamic workers.
Okay, why is that important?
This is huge because historically, 96% of WordPress vulnerabilities come from unrestricted plugins having too much access to the core system. By sandboxing them, Cloudflare is rethinking the very architecture of the internet to be more secure, completely automated, and infinitely scalable.
So let's bring this all together. As humans retreat from the messy public town square of social media for the safety of chatbots, as we actively train our own replacements in the knowledge economy for $50 an hour, as we hand over the messy reality of middle management to a live world model that tracks our Slack messages.
Yep.
And as we stop writing code by hand to become editors and vibe coders, we are leaving behind a vacuum. And filling that vacuum is a globally connected, satellite-linked, trillion-dollar automated infrastructure.
Which leaves us with the final, profound question to consider. If the machines are doing the heavy lifting of creation, if the algorithms are handling the routing of information, and the agents are executing the code, the only undeniable human contribution left seems to be our taste.
Our taste.
Yeah, it is no coincidence that a company called Contra Labs just emerged from stealth today. Their entire business model is an evaluation platform for AI creative tools, benchmarking them specifically on human creative taste.
In the future, will our only job be to sit back, look at what the machines have built at lightning speed, and simply say whether we like the vibe or not? It brings us right back to that beach. The tide of human manual and cognitive labor is pulling back, and the wave of automated infrastructure is towering over us.
It really is.
Navigating this great retreat requires active awareness. You cannot afford to passively accept the tide. You have to learn how the water moves, and you have to learn how to surf it.
Exactly. Understanding the mechanics of these changes, how the models work, how the data is routed, how the infrastructure is built, is the only way to retain your agency in a world that is incredibly eager to automate it.
Subscribe to AI Unraveled on Apple Podcasts to enjoy this human interest briefing completely ads-free.
That concludes our human interest rundown for April 2nd. The signal for today is the Great Retreat. We are actively retreating from the public square because human judgment has become too unforgiving, choosing the sterile safety of a chatbot over the risk of a real conversation. At the exact same time, the corporate world is asking us to train the very systems that will replace our managers, our workflows, and eventually ourselves. As Jack Dorsey and Sam Altman build the architectures of tomorrow, we have to ask what role the everyday human is meant to play in a society where the machines do the managing, the coding, and the talking. This episode was made possible by Area and JamgaMind. And don't forget to upgrade your own capabilities with our forensic-vetted AI executive toolkit at jamgamind.com/toolkit. If you want to keep your daily news human and completely ad-free, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts. I'm Anna. Stay human and keep unraveling the future.